Hey everyone, welcome back to the Grace Period. I am so excited to be celebrating the a couple days of Earth Day here. And I'm so excited because our special guest, Sarah Bush, she is an amazing gardener and farmer that's located in Tennessee. But today we're going to be diving into like how to get rooted. But of course, as everyone knows, I love to give an intro to my co-host. We have Lauren Crest from Lauren List Photo. We have Diana Baines with Baines Creative Design.
Hello.
And without further ado, this is Sarah. So how are you, Sarah?
Great. How are you, Tia?
I love it. I'm doing
So good to see
awesome.
you.
It's always good seeing
Good.
you. And just to let everyone know, I met Sarah when I first moved to the east end of Long Island, and she was actually one of my first friends. And she's the one that introduced me to the farming community up here. So I decided, why not have her on the show? Why not share a little bit of rootedness of what's going on down south, since she is down south, so you know what to grow.
Yes, I moved from New York.
Sarah, how long have you been digging your hands in the dirt?
Well, my whole life really. We had a big garden growing up in Middle Tennessee, and grew a portion of our food and had chickens and I had was sort of my first time on my own flying solo, and then took a break and did design, career in design, and got back to my roots. Got back rooted as a gardener for pay starting in 2008. So I've been growing flowers, food, or herbs since 2008.
Okay.
Wow.
Were you working for a company or were you doing it kind of freelance, doing gardens for different people?
Ways, yeah. My last job was in Nashville growing food for the Hermitage Hotel downtown, and the garden was about 4 miles south of downtown on a land trust preserve. So I grew specifically for that chef. I've also farmed at university farms in California and land trust farms in New York, and had a gardening business in Knoxville, Tennessee, from 2008 till 2011, doing edible landscapes and kitchen gardens.
Edible landscapes. That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, I've never really dove into edible landscapes. Have you, Lauren?
No, I haven't. But to me, when I hear that term, I think about like when I see really nice big rosemary bushes, and I'm like, you can put that on your food, and it smells amazing. It's delicious. But I guess you could. I mean, there are a lot of really beautiful. I think I've seen where cucumber plants grow really beautifully. I photographed a oh gosh, what is it? There is a farm in Alpharetta, the Rucker Road Farm. I photographed them for the Alpharetta Convention and Visitors Bureau. And so that was, I had been on a farm in a little while, and they had a lot growing there, and it was all really beautiful. So they have this wall, this cucumber wall, and you kind of like peek through the leaves, and there's little cucumbers there. So I just thought that was really neat. I was like, oh, this is really beautiful. Sarah, are you back with us?
Yes, I heard you speaking about cucumbers. So one of my favorite things to do when designing gardens for people is come into the space and see what existing elements we can work with. So if you have a trellis or like a banister, the stairs coming down from your deck, and that's where you naturally want to plant your cucumbers or your beans so that they can crawl on it and climb and maximize that vertical space.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks really beautiful. And a lot more productive, or I guess useful, than just ivy or something.
And delicious.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I see ivy a lot down here. Where I'm north of Atlanta, and you see a lot of that Boston ivy or different kinds of ivy everywhere. And so I would rather have cucumbers because I really like them.
Me too.
What are some important things to consider when you're
Some things to consider when you're planting.
when you're planning to plant a garden?
At your at your home.
Mhm.
Definitely, I'd say the biggest deal breaker is going to be light access. You want to make sure that you get 6 to 8 hours of sunlight for most vegetables. It can be a little bit shadier for greens, but if you want fruits, basically leaves, flowers, and fruit need more sun, like in ascending order. So that's why your tomatoes and your peppers love the really hot spots in the garden. And shade is kind of non-negotiable, really. Everything else you can work with. Like if you're low on water, you can add irrigation. If the soil isn't very good, you can always build the soil with compost or other nutrients. So yeah, always identify the sunlight patterns. Good to just spend some time in your yard all times of the year and kind of notice the sunny spots. And another thing to consider is access, like out of sight, out of mind. So the closer the garden is to your house, the more likely you're going to go into it and give it the TLC that it needs. But I really love front yard garden because it helps promote the local food lifestyle. You can be sort of an ambassador to your neighbors and kind of get the wheels turning about different ways of being in a neighborhood.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's neat.
Tell me about what
Any
you
editors?
currently have going on. Are you running a gardening and farming business right now? And if so, what is it called? And tell us a little bit about that.
I am not, and I actually moved back to Knoxville, Tennessee last month. Like right
Oh wow!
before lockdown, and moved into a home that I bought 15 years ago and haven't lived in 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Oh my
So
goodness!
I'm basically accepting unemployment at this time and working on my home and my gardens full time, which is
Wow.
great. I'm doing it allows me to do some like pro bono consulting. I just came from a friend's house and gave them a garden consult, but I had a wise financial mentor once tell me you shouldn't make your living from the work that you love. And it seemed a little bit out of reach to me. But this little moment of time, right, where some of us have unemployment, I don't see that as an opportunity to just sit around and do nothing. I see it as an opportunity to do the work that I love anyway and put that energy out there and just do it for free. You know?
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
That's amazing, Sarah.
This would be a great time to, get on Instagram and give some free tips to those who can't come to see you or you can see them.
exactly. With social distancing, I've really changed my approach. Like normally I would build raised beds of cedar and that would necessitate going to like stores and buying materials, and I want to be like as distant as possible. So I've shifted my advice to like building the gardens directly in the soil and like working with what we have instead of going around to a bunch of different stores and buying supplies, which is really it's more affordable for most people anyway, and it lasts longer. So yeah, it's
Wow.
yeah, I'm sorry that I don't have a name to drop or a business to promote or anything.
That's
but,
okay. No,
a
a lot of what we wanted to really, just connect with each other and everyone else on is just how you're spending this time. And that looks, that looks different for everybody. And I don't know that there's a right and a wrong way. I think it's, kind of following what's pulling at you. So I think that's a really beautiful way to use this moment.
Well, agriculture is considered an essential activity, and I have
Oh,
some
it is.
and they're very, very busy. I just am choosing to take this time to get reacquainted with my little piece of land. It's 3/4 of an acre, and I haven't lived here in 10 years, so it's interesting to see what's happened since I've been gone. And I see it as like my little laboratory where I can build different beds in different microclimates on the property and get reacquainted with the I don't know, climate has changed a little bit in 10 years in the South. Things are
Oh,
very different.
yeah.
So I'm going to proceed with garden consults maybe next year. Then this year here, like on my turf, will help me get reacquainted with that and the reality
Yeah.
of being.
How about the weather, Sarah? I mean, since we're talking about climate and what's best to grow, because due to like everything being transitional from, like you guys right now, it goes from hot to cold, like bipolar in Georgia. So what's the best things to grow down south, depending on weather, regardless if it's hot or if it's cold, raining, snowing, like what is the best?
This time of year, we're transitioning out of our spring crops. We've had a really, at least in eastern Tennessee, we've had a beautiful spring, just very mild with perfectly timed rain. I remember last year in Nashville, it was like spring didn't exist at all. Maybe we had spring and then it was like 90 degrees. So this is giving us a longer window of time to plant our greens, which mostly I can show you what I have going on here. Spinach, lettuces, kale.
Oh, there's your
Nice.
kale, Tia.
Yeah. Everybody likes kale. And then over here we
Oh,
have
that's
the
so
root
great.
crops. Radishes coming up, starting to size up. We have a little bit of red radish showing there, and the carrots,
Ooh.
arugula in the front. So it's not too late now to still plant some mustard greens, collard greens, arugula, lettuce, kale, and then your root vegetables like your carrots and your beets. Radishes prefer cooler weather, but they grow in like 2 weeks. They're really fast. So you can probably squeeze in one more round of radishes when it gets hot. But starting next week, I would say that it's safe to plant your summer crops. Like go ahead and usually you wait until Mother's Day, end of May or Mother's Day. Atlanta's probably a little warmer than East Tennessee. So I would say next week, put your tomatoes out and your peppers, plant your melon seeds, your cucumbers, your beans, corn.
Mm.
And to answer your question, Tia, in general, for the South, hot peppers, sweet potatoes thrive. They love it. They love the heat. Okra, hot peppers, sweet potatoes. We tried to grow okra in the Hamptons, Tia,
I know.
and it got about 3 feet tall.
Oh, goodness.
And if you know okra in the South, it's like a tree.
Yeah.
I've had 8 trees before.
I don't think I've ever seen an okra plant. Oh my goodness.
It's beautiful. It's in the hibiscus family.
Oh, really? Oh,
Didn't even know that.
The flower looks just like a hibiscus, and the flowers are edible too. They're really great dipped in tempura and fried. So we
What?
got tired of the
Oh my
okra
goodness.
bounty because
Huh.
Tempura fried flowers are officially on my to-do list at
So
some point.
Sarah, let's start talking about the flowers. Let's start talking about the flowers.
the flowers are close to my heart. I always end up there somehow, right?
What are your favorite flowers to grow?
My favorite flowers to grow, zinnias are, I'm going to speak from the southern perspective now. Zinnias can stand the heat and just keep pumping out blooms all summer long.
Okay.
I love it. And they're really, I know some people might think they're a little like basic, but there are so many new varieties now of zinnias with double blooms or cactus flowered blooms. It's really worth it to look into all of those varieties. And I love sunflowers in the summer heat as well.
Ah,
One thing about farming in the South is that we can plant several varieties of flowers in the late summer, early fall, and if they're about 6 to 8 inches when the cold season comes, then they'll winter over and you'll have that and nigella, orlea, snapdragons, something to
oh, we have
consider.
some really beautiful snapdragons in our neighborhood. I was walking with my son and kind of showing him because I guess he'd never really messed with them before. And I was like, oh, there's a snapdragon. He's like, why are they called that? And I showed him, I was like, because they go like this, like a dragon. I love those.
Yeah, they growl at you.
Yes, I love that. Oh my goodness.
I've never encountered one, so
I actually just posted on my Instagram stories. It's in black and white, but still, it's a snapdragon. So Tia, you got to go on my stories. There's a snapdragon in there.
There you go.
Next time you're in Atlanta, I will show you the wonders of snapdragons. They're very fun.
yeah, that will be our own journey.
Is that specifically a southern growing flower, Sarah? I don't know.
Not at all, but they like the cooler. So in the South, you'll see them in the spring, but not really past June. In Atlanta.
Okay. So they're about to go away.
They'll go away. I mean, we've had such a mild spring; they might extend longer, but which is why we have I guess the good fortune of planting things in the fall because we don't get as hard of a freeze. So give spring and have them sooner.
Okay.
I love that. Now,
Diana, oh, sorry. I
No,
know
go
you
ahead.
just started planting some herbs, didn't you? Or you were thinking about getting started? What did you
No,
plant?
I did. I planted thyme, basil, and rosemary. And actually, my basil is not doing great, but the rosemary and the thyme are doing fine. And I use basil the most, so I don't know if it's not getting enough sun, if it's not warm enough. Is basil something that needs more hotter temperatures, or I don't know. I don't know if I'm overwatering it. I don't know. I do not have a green thumb.
What was that?
Try again in a few weeks. Yeah, basil really likes it warm.
Warm.
Oh.
That might be why it's not doing so fantastic. Can it be planted with another, like in the same large pot with another herb, or does it like its own space?
Absolutely can be planted with other herbs. It needs probably 6 to 8 inches diameter around it. And do you know how to pinch it to make the plant bush out?
Yeah, I
Happens
use the
naturally as you're
top part.
harvesting for your. And that
Yeah, you
causes
don't
the
let it
plant
flower. Yeah, you
I did
pinch
not
off
know
the
about
top.
that.
Yep.
No, okay, wait. So walk me and Tia through this because
Rewind.
we don't know.
Like, hold on.
Yes.
I'm going to give you an example. Hang on.
Yes.
No, that's right.
Examples.
I have no idea. When you started saying pinching, I'm like, pinching what? Why are you
At the
pinching
very
it?
tops, you don't want them to get too big because then it hinders the growth of the rest of the stalk of basil. It just keeps it growing.
That helps it grow more. Like bigger or taller? Like wider or taller? Oh. I think Diana's frozen. Here we go.
I haven't put it in the ground yet because it's still too chilly. I'm just keeping it in the sunny window. And I'm going to harvest some for my dinner tonight. I harvest at the base of the stem in between the next set of leaves. See, like this?
Okay.
And that's going, and I do that on like every stalk that's growing. That's my, this is gonna go on my pizza.
So the very nice.
Everyone's having pizza.
It is pizza night. So just the top sprouting ones. You basically take the top ones and go one link down.
The top one or two. And then what that does, it promotes new growth. So this is where I did that already last week.
Oh,
The new growth started on either side of that stem.
okay.
And it causes the plant to be bushier. If you never did that, it would just grow long and skinny. It would be like this.
Ah, okay.
Oh.
Only leaves and no branches.
Okay. So do you need to sort of wait it out a little while after you, so say you get the top and you have all new growth on the top, like what you just showed us. Are there other places you can pinch? Say 3 nights later, you want pizza again? Or should you wait a while?
That's a good reason to have like 3 or 4 plants. So you can pinch
Nice.
them
Okay.
and-
Okay.
Yeah, I probably need more than what I have. I have 2. I love to make big batches of pesto. So,
Ooh,
so I like
yeah.
that.
I feel like it's called pinch and pull, right? When you pinch it, you're pulling it, right?
Not necessarily, because it's kind of delicate. You just pinch it off.
Yeah, with your thumbnail, just kind of like
Use your nail to pull
break
it off.
Okay.
and flick it off. It's very tender. Another thing about basil is that it's actually kind of short-lived, and you should be sowing new basil seeds every 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, from let's say in Atlanta, probably the middle of March. The middle of March, the ones you sow in the middle of March are the ones that you'll put out after the last frost in late April, early May. And then you'll want to sow them every 3 weeks so that you always have a steady supply. All the way
Okay, good to know.
September.
Okay.
There you go, D.
Well, my dad is always so fantastic at growing his basil. He gets this huge bush, but it seems to last him so long. I don't know.
Yeah, the plant will last. It depends on how much you're harvesting, but maybe a month. So if you
Yeah.
want a succession, you got to keep planting it. Basil also, it's really unfortunate. Basil started to get a disease, a fungus in like 2010 or 2011. I started noticing it. It gets like a powdery mildew underneath the leaves, and that just happens as the plant ages. So, and the spores are in the air. It's kind of like blight on your tomatoes. It's kind of unavoidable. So that's another reason, as the plant starts to get a little old, you can trade it out for a newer one that doesn't have that.
Yeah, so really it's not going to go away over time. You just have to get a different plant.
Right.
Wow.
As soon as you start noticing a little bit of black, like it looks like soot a little bit underneath some of the leaves, go ahead and take the whole plant out and eat the leaves that are good and plant a new one.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not harmful to humans. It's just, it doesn't help the plant grow.
No, you can wash it off.
Okay, cool. Good to know.
Yeah, tragic.
Wow.
It's only the Genovese basil that we love so much that gets that. So the Thai basil, lemon basil, opal, there's so many different kinds of basil that we can eat, but like none of it tastes quite the same as this stuff. It's just so good.
Yeah.
That was really pretty looking basil you were holding.
I can't wait to eat it soon.
One year, Louis made strawberry basil ice cream.
Oh my goodness, that sounds amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I feel like basil is like a universal herb that you can plant wherever. Right?
I think so. I mean,
been around forever. I wonder if originally it came from Italy. I don't know.
We'll find out. Well, it's in all of their dishes, or most of them.
Lyle says it comes from China,
Yeah. Okay.
Egypt, China,
But you know, tomatoes
horticulturalists.
are in their dishes too, and tomatoes are a new world crop. So
Oh,
imagine what Italy was like before the 1500s
Hmm.
when they were back from the Americas. What
That's
did they?
interesting to know that.
like pasta with nothing on it. Olive oil.
Mostly meat and fish. Who knows?
Sarah,
All
I would
my
love to
family
know.
recipes require tomatoes.
I love tomatoes. What would you? What's your opinion on maybe your top 3 like grow at your house crops that you would recommend for maybe like a south set and a north set, since you've been in the north but you're back in the south and you're familiar with it, like for people who are like, I want to start, like I would love to be able to grow a couple of things, but I'm just like, I am not the greatest at keeping plants alive. So it would need to be some good starter things.
Well, if we're talking about growing plants from seed, radishes are really fun.
Okay.
They can handle the cool, so you can start them earlier in the spring. They're quick. They're pretty quick. You can eat your radishes like within a month, and most people like them. You know, they're crunchy. You can put them on a
I
salad.
do, yeah.
Roast it. We eat the greens, sautéed or blended into a pesto, mixed with some
Oh.
other herb. They're like a little fuzzy to eat raw in a salad, but if you saute them or blend them in a pesto, then they're delicious. So
Oh,
yeah,
good to know.
they're great. I always recommend radishes like for kids' gardens because they're just fast and they're so satisfying to pull out of the
Yeah.
That's the level I'm at, kids garden.
And let's see, so 3 crops. Well, I just don't think that any garden should be without a tomato plant.
I was hoping you would say tomatoes because I really love them.
Yeah.
I've always had a hard time growing them though. They always get attacked by things. Birds.
The tomatoes are kind of divas. They need a lot. So that's like the next level.
Okay.
Make sure your soil is really rich. You have to water them consistently. If they don't have consistent moisture, they can get blossom end rot. If you've ever noticed that on your plant, it's like a dark rotten spot on the side away from the stem.
Oh.
And then you also have to prune them. If you prune away, kind of like I was showing you with the basil, you want to prune away the side shoots that come out, the suckers, and that gives you a more robust plant that has more fruit on it and less vegetation. So like the sky's the limit how in depth you want to go with their cultivation. And they get attacked. They do end up usually, especially in the south, with late blight. So it's good to plant 2 successions of tomatoes, just like with the basil, like plant an early planting and a later planting. But so worth it. Just
okay.
Delicious, right? And,
yes.
You know, start with a cherry tomato variety. My favorites are Sun Gold and Black Cherry.
Ooh, okay. I haven't heard of black cherry. That just sounds good though.
Like a dusky, dark, purplish red. And it's almost
my dad
salt on it already. It's so good.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Great, because you get lots. You can graze. You don't have to worry about them cracking.
Okay.
It's so stressful to watch like your Brandywine or like big heirloom tomatoes sizing up, and then we get rain and it makes it crack, or you get a bird peck and you've lost that big fruit, that whole investment in that big fruit. So start with cherries or grape or pear tomatoes if you're a beginner. And then the third, I would say, my goodness. Well, I'm gonna say 2. Everyone should plant kale or chard, just because they're really reliable, easy to grow greens that they can stand into the summer heat. In the south, you can plant them in the fall and they'll last through the winter and have a nice flush in the spring. And they're pretty straightforward. Their nutrient requirements are not that picky. And then the other one is potato.
Potatoes?
People don't usually think about growing like rice, right? Or
Yeah.
like a potato. But a just picked potato will blow your mind. Like it really is like the difference between like a winter tomato and a farmer's market tomato. Like fresh potatoes are that good, and like no one knows it because we're used to like these dumpy like grocery store things that are like super starchy. So yeah, fresh new potatoes, definitely worth growing. And you can grow them even without a garden. You can grow them in a laundry basket, or if you have a
Get a garbage
bin.
What?
I taught a kids workshop at a farm conference in Asheville one year, and I got a bunch of those reusable grocery bags that they're not really plastic, but they're cotton. They're that kind of like felty fabric, and I had a bunch donated from the local food store, and we put probably 6 inches of soil in the bottom, put our sprouted potatoes in it, and then as they grew, just put it outside on the patio in the sun, and as they started to grow, we layer with straw and compost, and every time you have maybe like 6 inches above the soil, you layer a little more and let it keep growing. I wish I could show you, but they're not ready yet. But when you dump the bag out, basically you have little stolons that come off of the main trunk of the potato as you're burying it, and those get potatoes on the end. So just a bag full of potatoes, really. It's great.
Oh my goodness.
So exciting and easy, and you don't need a garden. If you're planting potatoes in the ground, you have to dig a deep trench and then fill it in gradually as it grows. And not everyone has nice enough soil to go deep like that, and it's a lot of labor to dig a deep hole. So building up with the potatoes is fun. You can Google potato towers, and there's so many DIY like tips you can find about that.
Do you use any like herbicide or anything like that?
For the potatoes, they can be susceptible to the Colorado potato bug. And once you get it, they will skeletonize a plant like within a couple days. So you have to be vigilant and look for them. Like Google it so you know what you're looking for. There's a nymph phase and an adult beetle phase, and you squish them with your fingers, or you can have like a little like a yogurt container of water with a little soap in it, and like brush them off into it, put the lid on, and they'll drown.
I can know that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I find it wish.
What do you about plant?
When I was growing up, I remember it most successfully in Nevada when we lived in Carson City, Nevada. My dad and I would always grow squash and zucchini, and we would get these gigantic squash and zucchini plants, and they had those crazy bugs on them. They used to really freak me out because they were crazy big bugs.
I would not handle that well.
That's why I didn't suggest growing the squash, even though it's very rewarding and you get like a big crop for your effort. The squash bugs in the south, like both those bugs you're talking about, the squash bugs and the vine borers, which is like the larva of a waspy type insect that burrows into the vine and kills the plant. So
oh no, okay, that'd be frustrating.
Don't do that.
I know. I'm just gonna give those bugs a good talking to.
know that squash is worth it. Like the tomatoes are worth it, right? All of that extra
Yeah.
work. Squash is squash.
I love squash, so you know, maybe one day I'll give it a try because I do really love it.
Yeah, it's worth a try. You need a lot of space with squash. If you have a garden with a raised bed, plant it on the and then straw on your lawn and let the squash go over that straw.
Mm.
And it doesn't take up room in your garden.
Okay.
Wow.
Those are good tips. Thank you.
I know. I'm just like, but this is really getting rooted.
I wrote things down. It's like a goal. I want to try to grow something. I want to be able to eat something that I grew.
True. It is very rewarding.
And
You know, yesterday was the new moon, and the new moon is the time for sowing seeds. So it has that lunar cycle as the moon waxes.
Oh,
The seeds grow underneath the soil. So
did
wow.
not know that.
something.
Me either. Man, there's so
That's
many
really-
things that go into this. Knowing the moon, knowing the bugs, knowing your soil, knowing the it's a lot.
But also, you know, there since like, you know, with this grace period and everyone, you know, supporting like your local farmers, but also taking the time to get into their backyard and get more rooted and having produce that you can create that you can grow yourself.
Yeah. I
That's
know a
gonna
lot
be
of
the new
people,
trend.
that's just a hobby. It's just something that makes them feel good.
Big time.
Yeah, and with all the with all the uncertainty around like going to the store and getting food and work and all, like I mean just everything going on, I think that's such a nice, for that to become a more common practice, that to create your own reliability on growing something
Yeah.
would be so great.
Sustainable.
Exactly.
And healthier lifestyle.
Exactly. If we all had a little garden, we would be more resilient during these times.
Yeah.
And one thing
Right.
I like is that you don't have to do it alone. Co-farming is a really beautiful thing, and neighbors can join together and share spaces and share the labor, share the cost of the tools, share the
Yeah.
cost of the seeds. Like, who really needs 200 tomato seeds? But that's like what comes in a pack. Really, you probably only need 5 plants at the most in your yard, or even
Right.
200 radish or lettuce. Like, that's going to take a couple of years to get through. But if you're splitting it with some friends, then it's not going to waste. You're saving money. In 2010, my boyfriend and I and 2 other couples dug up his front yard, a beautiful garden. It was like a really fun co-farming adventure. We ended up harvesting and cooking the meals together later in the summer,
Oh,
and we were ambassadors for that lifestyle too, because we were in the front yard. The neighbors would walk by and chat with us as we worked.
That's really amazing. Oh my goodness.
well, and to share that harvest, because sometimes, if you're planting so many plants, you're going to have a lot, and it's like, it's more than you can cook yourself. So, sharing that with others is really great.
Sharing is caring. People get a little ambitious, and then what do they do with all of that bounty? Great
Right.
to give away. Or if you're feeling overwhelmed, then it's great to have help with the labor, the weeding and the harvesting. It's just always more fun. So building resiliency within community, building resiliency in our food supply, like these are all like lessons that we're taking from this COVID time that we can continue in the future. There's no need to stop just because the shelves are stocked again.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for you with your new, being back to your house and having a lot of, it's almost like a big blank slate. You've obviously already gotten started growing some things. So I hope you have a lot of fun sort of experimenting and getting used to it again and deciding what you're going to do with it.
Thank you. It's my little laboratory.
Yes.
I do have a vision. This house is on a hill across the river from downtown, so it's overlooking the city, UT, Neyland Stadium, here, everything.
Wow.
It's very walkable. It's like a 2-minute walk to downtown, and
That's awesome.
so I see the potential here of sort of a teaching space, an educational space in the future.
Ooh.
Absolutely.
Setting, permaculture, just urban resiliency, and to show it's a challenging property. You know, there are hills, there's people, there's sun and shade, there's red clay, there's groundhogs, and so I figure if you can do it here, you can do it anywhere.
Right.
It's so true.
Wow. That's really cool.
Yeah, you'll have to come see it time.
Oh, I
Hey,
will be.
I know Tia will.
I would love that. That's not a far drive.
Yeah, you're
Girls trip.
welcome.
I know, right? That sounds like a good girls trip.
And it'll be like we could do farm to table. Whatever you've grown, we can harvest it and have it that night.
Mhm.
Exactly. Yep.
Yes,
Yeah, you
I
could
have
do what?
photographed. I've photographed
Exactly.
2 different farms in the last few years, and those are some of my favorite shoots because it's so fun to be. Because it reminds me of growing up
What
and kind of
color?
doing some home gardening with my dad, and those are really fun to photograph, but also just to be in and kind of learn. So I'm all for driving up there whenever we can stop socially distancing.
Yeah, I can't wait. That will be a really fun trip.
Fun. We'll just throw a folding table in the middle of the garden.
Yes.
Perfect.
Sit on the ground and have a picnic.
Perfect.
Sarah, how can everyone find you? Because they know you do online consult. So how could they find you digitally?
Instagram is best. Farmer Forager is my handle.
Okay.
I'm also on Facebook, Sarah Bush.
I do have to say this. Your last name is Bush, and
Appropriate.
it's so appropriate for what you're doing.
Yes. Yes, like a berry bush.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
You grew into your name.
Mm-hmm. It's her brand.
What?
It's your brand.
Oh, it's my brand.
Your
Yeah.
name is your brand. Part of your brand. That's
And
cool.
my cat. Did you see my cat running around earlier?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Her name is Rose. So it's Rose.
Aw.
Oh, Rose Bush. That's so great.
Very cool.
I have a cat named Lily. So
Oh.
Flower cat.
another flower cat. Oh my goodness. It was so wonderful talking with you, Sarah, and just learning from you.
Yeah, it was really great. I'm sure there are gonna be a ton of questions and comments.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions, you know. Like I said before, I have the time. I'm having a lot of spaciousness in my life right now, and I want to give back in any way possible. So seems
Yeah.
like digital is going to be the way to do it for now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
Well, I
which
hope
is
you post.
we can do it from a distance, you know. And when I was doing the bricks and mortar gardens, it had to be, you know, I had like a half an hour limit to my commute, and now it can be anywhere really.
Yeah. Well, I hope to post and see all the things happening along the way during this time and follow you.
I will. Yes, thank you for that affirmation. I always need to do more, of course, but yeah, I
Do
will.
what you can.
Yeah. I think from, as someone who would be really interested in that process of figuring out and problem solving for
Yeah.
such a thing that people don't, I would say the average person you walked out and, just talked to wouldn't know much about, would be really interested to watch that journey of just thinking through plans and what works and what doesn't work. And I think that would be fascinating to follow along with on Instagram.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. Yeah, farmers
So-
are some of the most resilient, dynamic, and adaptable people.
I would agree.
Mhm.
So smart. Change all the time. You never know weather, markets, pests.
Also, so many variables that you have to be
Gotta,
savvy with and keep up with.
Yeah. Well, Sarah, I'm so glad that we were able to have you on the grace period. And I'm just glad I had one of my dear friends on too. Now all my friends get to meet. Well, Diana, would you like to close out?
Sure. Thank you everybody for watching tonight. And we look forward to seeing you next Monday on the grid. Thank you again, Sarah. And Lauren.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you on
Thank
Monday.
you. See you next week.
bye.
Bye. And stay safe and healthy.
Bye.
And well fed.